I got home last night and looked at Facebook and Twitter, and just to see that the great Don Imus had passed away. I moved here in 1986, and I had known about Don Imus. I'm a radio junkie, so to speak, but when I moved here in 1986, I was privileged that I got to finally listen to Imus, and at that time he was had just probably the end part of WNBC, and as you know, he was famous for the WNBC.
Yep.
Right? So, and then after that, he went to WFAN in New York, which at the time WFAN was struggling as they started that station, and they brought Don Imus on. And then it took off. The ratings took off, and he did wonderful there. But I wanted to give you a little facts about Don Imus. He deserves our time tonight because, without a Don Imus, someone like me or someone like me, not me, but like Howard Stern, for example, these type of guys would not have the success that they have had. Talk radio may not have the success it's had because of Don Imus. So I wanted to kind of reach out. And, a lot of people refer to what they remember last with Don Imus. Obviously, the comments that were made about the Rutgers basketball team, that's not what you should remember Don Imus about. My number one thing I remember Don Imus about, it's actually two things. It's one, he had that ranch in Texas that he would help kids with cancer.
Yes.
That's something that is amazing. Unfortunately, it closed in 2014, but that's something that you should remember Don Imus about. And one other thing that makes me giggle, when I first moved here, I was known, and everybody knows me for, I use the word boner a lot.
Yes.
Okay, and I use it in a fun way, and obviously the real meaning of a boner is it's a mistake. You have the boner. There you go. But when Don Imus, he used to use that word all the time. I guarantee you almost every show that word would come out. And I would certainly get a chuckle. That was kind of a connection with me and him. I didn't know him. He didn't know me, whatever. I was a young guy in advertising coming up. And but every morning I would never miss between, and he had Charles McCord was part of the show.
Right.
And it was an iconic show, and he's an iconic guy. I just wanted to give you a little information. He was born in 1940 in Riverside, California. Unfortunately, died Friday at College Station. It's amazing how Wikipedia just immediately updates this stuff. He was, in his radio career, it started in 1971 through 79 at WNBC and WHK. From 79 to 88, he was at WNBC, and then from 88 to 2007, he was at WFAN, which was national syndication. And then even here, he came here after what happened at WFAN. He was here and I didn't realize it was this long, from 2007 to 2018. Some of the things he's remembered about is obviously the Rutgers Scarlet Knights women, Adam Pac-Man Jones controversy, Joe Barton, and lawsuits, accusations of the way he spoke about certain people. Interesting, in he was born in Riverside, California, into a wealthy family, the son of John Donald Imus Sr. and Frances E. Imus, who ran a 35,000-acre ranch named the Willows near Kingman, Arizona. In 1957, while living in Prescott, Arizona, Imus dropped out of high school, joined the United States Marine Corps at Base Camp Pendleton, where he was stationed in the artillery division before transferring to the Drum and Bugle Corps. Kind of interesting. In 1966, the year I was born, Imus enrolled at the Don Martin School of Radio and Television Arts and Science in Hollywood. After seeing a newspaper advertisement, he was thrown out for being uncooperative. What a surprise. But studied enough to obtain a broadcasting license from the Federal Communications Commission. I'm just going to give you some other facts there. Interesting, I thought this was really impressive. In December 2nd, 1971, less than 3 years into his radio career, Imus started his morning show at WNBC in New York City and made $100,000 a year. A lot of money in 1971.
It was.
A ton of money. Obviously, he was joined by Charles McCord, who was a big part of the show, did the news and what have you. And I think it was Charles McCord who came up with the name I-Man.
Yeah.
Is where I think that came from. So, anyway, so like a lot of you guys, I wanted to, and you'll hear WABC talk about You'll hear promos this week. You'll hear a lot of stuff about Imus. You'll hear, and I know that the morning guy here,
Sid.
No, Sid and the other
Bernie.
guy, Bernie, who was his producer. I understand that he will talk thoroughly when he comes back from vacation.
Jill Vitale was saying that they've been getting so many calls about it. And you got to be patient.
Right.
Because Bernie's going to go into it.
Good listen, so you'll be listening that
But,
morning.
John, you're going to get a lot of calls. If I could give you a little bit of a different side
to
this.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to get a lot of calls from people who were very hurt and offended by some of it. So I think we need to at least address that.
Sure.
I personally, and again, I'm saying again, but I've told you this off the air, I don't like knocking people when they're down. It really bothers me, so I don't want to go that way. All my instincts are not to say anything bad about the guy. Clearly, he was a radio pioneer, but you are going to get calls tonight. There's no doubt in my mind.
And I invite those calls.
Upset.
If you want to talk about Don Imus, like him, didn't like him, whatever, I invite you to call tonight.
Good. And I didn't like him. And one of the reasons, I'm just going to be honest, one of the reasons I didn't like him was I knew he hurt a lot of people. That Rutgers team was genuinely upset. You saw the interviews. And by the way, that's the thing he got caught for. Everyone's talking about the Rutgers thing as if it was just one faux pas. No. That was not a faux pas. He said a lot of hurtful things over the years, very racist things, a lot of them all the time. He got away with almost all of them. I found him unlistenable. I didn't find him funny. I found when people say racist, hurtful things, I just find it hurtful. I don't find it funny. So I hate knocking. Clearly he's a radio pioneer. Somebody just tweeted, he was a radio pioneer, so was Roger Ailes, TV pioneer. They're right. And Imus was accused of all sorts of terrible things. And by the way, I know that Bernie's going to talk about this next week, and that's a must-listen radio. I hope people tune into that show. It's a good show anyway. But I know that Bernie and Sid have been saying all sorts of bad things about him, even since he retired. And they gave him that show. They gave them that opportunity, but they thought, Bernie, I know, thinks he was terribly mistreated by Imus, and so does Sid. They've talked about that. So he is a radio pioneer, but, let's not make him out to be the second coming because he had issues. That's
fair. But at the end of the day, like him, not like him, iconic. Right?
There's no
fair.
question.
That's fair. Right?
No question about it.
And as I said, I invite callers tonight to call if you want to talk about a Don Imus story or something that he called about being funny. I just know that he was a good listen to me. Every morning I would listen to them and got addicted, actually. And somebody I looked up to in regards to the broadcasting world. That's positive or negative.
Did you listen to him regularly?
Totally right. Until he came here.
Yeah.
After the Rutgers situation, whatever, I just kind of lost touch of listening to him.
Quack, quack.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of lost touch of listening to him, but and I don't know why I lost touch listening. It wasn't because of the Rutgers thing. It was maybe I wasn't.
Francesa had a good point about him that he kept reinventing himself. He went from purely shock to political, to sports a little bit.
Yeah.
When a lot of people don't remember this, but FAN bought NBC. That's how it happened.
Yeah.
They took over. Imus was the only thing that stayed.
Right, because they were 66 on the dial.
66 WN, and then he was doing WFAN for a little while.
Right.
And they wanted him to stay because, like you said, they were struggling. So the only thing that remained from NBC was Imus. I remember that day. I remember when they switched over, because I was one of these guys who was listening 24/7, and I literally turned my dial that day, and Imus was on that day and invited them in.
Yeah.
And that's why Francesa and Russo loved this guy and stood up for him.
I knew Russo was discovered by him on WMCA radio.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. And Francesa was really, sort of lifted up from, basically Imus, kept promoting their show. And kept having Francesa on the morning show.
Well, it makes sense, right? Imus kind of gruff.
Yeah.
Francesa kind of gruff.
And Sid, too. He really started Sid's career, too.
Right. So, listen, there'll be positives and there'll be negatives along the way. So, as Bruce was talking before tonight, that at the end of the day, there's a lot of people, whether they liked him or not, owed something to him in regards to he may have helped their career in some way. Not even related, so to speak.
But I also want to say the flip side. I want to be fair, because he had a black adopted child. So you want to call him racist. I don't think we knew the real dynamics.
Interesting.
I didn't like him on the air, but let's not jump to too many conclusions, because he did have an adopted child who was black. Now, that's walking the walk. That's not just talking the talk.
No doubt.
He said offensive things that offended me personally. I didn't like the stuff
But don't forget, he was in the radio business.
He was a shock jock.
He was in the radio.
He was a shock jock.
And I always used to I don't remember what the guy did, but he always had that Hickey Friedman Newman guy.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Maybe that was some of a connection with me. All right, give us a call on the Gotta Go to Mo's call-in line at 800-848-9222. That's 800-848-WABCModels.com. All right, Bruce, let's take a quick break.